Hi there guys, Bushcraft Viking here, and in today's video I'll be doing that survival challenge. Now, I did throw a couple of twists into it for my own benefits. So I decided to kind of take it upon myself to go ahead and put together the kit you see right here. I got my wool blanket, I got the survival kit, and among a couple other things here too. Now the knife, this guy right here, this is my Victorinox hiker. Now I did also choose one other tool as well, and that is my Leatherman. I never leave the house without this guy. This guy always goes with me wherever I go. So that's why I have this guy with me too. So it is supposed to get pretty chilly tonight. So it's supposed to drop down to about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And so I did bring a couple extra layers with me. It's also why I have the wool blanket. Now I do have a special shelter in mind for me to use in this survival challenge. Obviously, as you guys can see, I'm wearing a bright orange shirt. The reason for that is because it is the first day of archery in the state that I live in. And compared to wearing an orange hat, I figured I might as well go ahead and wear an orange shirt because it covers more of my body. And so that is the reason why you'll be seeing this shirt throughout this video. And also throughout the rest of the month, up until about November, December, you'll be seeing me wear some form of orange because around this time a year, archery season comes in, small game comes in, along with muzzleloaders. So I am going to be wearing orange over the next few months. And around small game season, I am planning on coming out here and doing some hunting for squirrels. So I will consider that as another survival challenge, because I do have an idea for a video in the future to do a survival challenge based on a lost hunter mentality. So I do think that'd be kind of a cool video, and maybe even possibly an informational one for you guys too. But for right now, that's why I'm wearing an orange shirt. Okay, so obviously I am not going to be doing an actual survival situation here. This is just going to be a mock survival situation. So that way, just to clear any kind of confusion, this is all basically fake to a certain degree. And there is going to be some parts of this video that may make you guys laugh because I'm going to try to do some funny things in this video that hopefully you guys will find entertaining. So let's get right to it. First thing I'm going to do is I am actually going to be locating a place to put up the shelter I have. The main thing is that I'm not coming out here and actually trying to survive. Like, this is just to kind of demonstrate to you guys on what you guys can bring with you and do, especially around this time of year where it's midsummer, going into early fall. And obviously the temperature is going to start dropping tonight down to around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's why I kind of brought the extra gear I did specifically for this video for an overnighter. And I do know that there's some bears in the area, so I do need to keep an eye out for them. But the first thing for me is going to be setting up my shelter, getting some firewood, and kind of establishing my campsite. I already know where there's a water source at, I already know where to find food at, and I already know what I need to do to survive out here. It's not that hard for me because I'm familiar with this area. So this little area here is pretty much where I'm looking at setting up this campsite. It is relatively flat and should have enough room for me to do everything I need here tonight. Now, I've been kind of scoping out this area, and this area is not a terrible place to kind of form a shelter at. Now, the main issue that I'm having though is obviously all of these pieces of wood in here, which I'm not going to clear anything out here. I'm just going to go ahead and find a good place to set up. This is my setup for tonight. Got my wool blanket. I do have some extra stuff in here. And then in this green sack you see here, that has a cooking pot in it, and along with a couple other things inside the cooking pot and along with the outside of it. The frame that this pack has, believe it or not, is actually the same exact frame from the Dollar General Survival Challenge. I just kind of updated it a little bit and upgraded it to where it needed to be for my personal likings. I've got everything I need right here on my back frame. What's nice about this is that it weighs less than 5 pounds. So I'm kind of thinking about this little area here being where I'm going to set my shelter up somewhere in around this area here. Have my fire pit somewhere right around where the camera's at right now. What I'm going to do next is I'm just going to go over everything I brought with me for you guys. Good thing is there's a lot of dead branches around here. So right out the gate, you'll notice I got these two tools right here. I already went over them. This is a DIY sheath I did about 4 or 5 years ago whenever I got this knife. This is my Victorinox hiker, nothing too special. I got my Leatherman Sidekick, nothing too special as well. And also for light, I do have my O light here. I do also have an additional light too for doing stuff at night. So it's time for me to kind of go ahead and go over all the stuff I have right in here. So I'll bring you guys in close for this. Alright, so right out the gate, the first things that you see is obviously the wool blanket I brought with me in this. Now, the first thing I'll be going over is going to be this first. Now, I do have this tied off right here with the clove hitch, and undo this whole entire thing. So, like I said, this is what we will be going through first. I just want to get the rest of this all undone, get my pack frame kind of squared away here. So obviously, we got ourselves a wool blanket along some additional gear. Alright, so we kind of got all of our cordage here kind of squared away on our pack frame. I'm just going to set this off to the side. Like I said, we'll be going over this last, because this right here is where all the magic's going to happen at the night. So what I got here in this little red bandana is just a couple of small things of food, just to kind of help get me through the day or get me through the night, whatever I may need. I just have a few simple Nature Valley bars. And this right here, this is the cooking pot survival kit that I put together. Now, I did actually go ahead and clean this cooking pot. You kind of see some of the leftover residue on it from use, but this is that little cooking pot that you guys have seen before. It's my stainless steel one. I did not want to bring out my titanium one for this, because another thing you'll notice is this. This right here is a bale that I made out of some copper. You'll see why it's going to come in handy here pretty soon. Alright, so now we're going to start going over the actual survival kit that I got here. So as you can see, I got this thing packed pretty full. And I've got some pretty interesting things in here for you guys. Or coffee and a few filters. Then, if you guys watched my previous video, you may recognize these. These are some of the fire starters I made. I do have a little bit of wire here. Now this wire I brought off for demonstrational purposes for trapping. Now I will not be using this wire for trapping. I just want to specify that. This is only going to be for demonstrational purposes. I do have a little bit of duct tape along with I got 2 batteries for my flashlights. I have some beef bouillon cubes so I can make some broth if I have to. Got a beeswax candle. Then for my cordage, this is actually Kevlar micro cordage. And this is about 25 feet of it. I got one way to start a fire, and that is with my ferrocerium rod here. That's why I brought that. So this is the only means of fire starting that I have. So this right here is all I have for fire starting. That's it. Then I just have a small spoon that I modified. I cut the rest of the spoon off, filed off all the sharp edges, and boom, I got myself a small eating utensil. Now this right here, this is the shelter. This is a sole emergency bivvy. This is what I'll be sleeping in the night, in conjunction with the wool blanket. Now, something kind of cool that this thing has on it, there's a couple things this little sack here has on it that I've never seen on any other survival product of this size for shelter. First thing is it has a whistle on it. The cordage here, you see, this is actually micro paracord. And this micro paracord, I believe, actually has some wax jute on the inside of it. As you can see, it's orange, and it does have some reflective mylar on the inside. It's basically just a giant space blanket is essentially all that is. I've also got 2 1-quart Ziploc bags. Transport water or food or whatever the case may be in. Last but not least, I have 4 small zip ties. So the 2 things I'm leaving out of that survival kit right now is the cordage and also the shelter. I'm going to start getting that set up here. But first, I need to clear out the area underneath where this stuff's sitting at. And then I'll start working on the fire. And then eventually actually getting some real food. So I'm just going to take both of these and put them in my pocket so that I don't lose them. Now, the shemagh here can be used as a small blanket or a head wrap or neck wrap, whatever I need it to be used for. Same thing kind of goes for the bandanas. I can obviously use these guys for multiple different uses, so I'm glad I have two of them. Now, the first step is going to be moving all of the dead branches out of the way, because I can use all these dead branches for firewood and kindling to get this fire going. If you guys watched the last video, as you know, it did rain out yesterday pretty much all day. So a lot of this wood out here is going to be nice and wet. So it's going to take a little bit to actually get a fire going. Now I figured I'd come here to this site here and camp out because I've never camped out in this specific area before. So that is exactly why I'm out here. Jaggers. Don't want to lay on them. Let's see. I'm actually going to take my pack frame and kind of hang it up a little bit here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm simply just going to take my foot and drag in pretty much all the debris that I can here. Kind of looking for stuff like that because this is full of jaggers. Like here is basically going to be my bed. First things first, I'm going to move all this stuff right here back so that I can move all the leaves and sticks up from here where my fire pit's going to be to add to this bedding I got laying down right here. Don't want to lose this. It's time to pull out our shelter here and get it set up. But before I do that though, there is one additional thing I want to make for this. And that's going to require me cutting down a small tree. And there's plenty of them in this area. So this guy right here is the one I'm planning on taking. And I will be using this guy right here to cut it down. Because if you remember in the knife video I did, this guy's got a kick-ass little saw on it. Let me show you just how good this little saw is for being how small it is. It's a little relief cut. Yeah, there we go. I took about through that whole entire tree that is bigger than the diameter of my thumb. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim off a little bit of this for the project I need for the shelter. After that, like, I can basically use this thing for one other purpose you guys will see later on. Alright, so I cut the piece we're going to be needing for the shelter. If I have to, I can modify it to make it a little bit smaller, because I don't know exactly how big the shelter is going to be. This will be a part of the shelter itself. So what I'm going to do is just pull out my shelter out of my pocket and then unravel it. As you can kind of see, there is a little bit of mylar on the inside of this. It's going to help reflect the heat from the fire and also to help reflect the body heat. That is the primary reason for this. Lay it out, see how big it is, and go from there. So all this is really is just a big mylar blanket that they made into a sleeping bag. And all I'm going to do is try to open it up, put it over top of the bedding I got laid out here. Okay, so this is a little bit longer than I was thinking. So I'm going to pull it your way a little bit, just kind of give me some room on this end. So right now, this is what I've come up with. But all it is, I did a couple lark's head knots right up here at the top, one towards the front here, one towards the back. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Now, it looks like it's a little nut of some kind. This is what I'm using as my little means of doing this to shelter. So I'm just going to take this, feed it up to see it right about here. Then it's going to take it, pinch it, twist it a couple times, bring this back, put the slip knot with the stopper knot on it at the top, pull it tight, and pull my plastic sleeve right there tight. And now what I have is the top of my shelter. Now for the corners, what I'm looking at doing is putting rocks down. Now if I have to, what I can do is I can lower this if I need to, which looking by the back here, I'm gonna have to do that. And I need to make, I also need to make myself a fire pit. So I've got quite a few things I need to do yet before it gets too dark. So I'm gonna go get over here, get the stones for this, put them on each of the four corners, and I'll come back and start working on getting some food and then get the fire going. I went down, I grabbed 4 stones here to put in 4 corners of this guy right here. So first one's just going to go right there. Second one go right there. Now I'll go inside and I'll put the last 2 in the last 2 corners. So this will be the first time you guys will ever see me without a hat on. It's going to make it easier. Hope you guys like the view. I know I would. Let's also see if this thing's going to collapse on me or not. It is hot in there. Just from that, I'm sweating like crazy. But I need to fix this real quick since I can kind of see what's going on. All right, I just fixed it. So what I'm going to do now is just crawl back inside of this shelter, get everything here set back up, and go from there. So be prepared to enjoy the view once again, because I have to redo all the rocks on the inside of this now. Oh, whew. It gets warm in there. Every time I crawl in there, it's like walking into a sauna. So I know I will definitely be warm tonight because the insulation down there, but looks like I have to move the insulation over a little bit, which is fine. It's not that hard to do that. It's that hard to move all the insulation here on the bottom. Could even take rocks and put like on the sides here if I wanted to, but for tonight, this will be just fine. Should offer plenty of room and also plenty of comfort for tonight. There's only one way to find out. That's for us to test it out together. This should be a lot further away than that to make it easier to get in and out. It should be right about in this area right here. But in a survival situation, sometimes you got to do stuff just like this just to get by. This shelter is not designed to be comfortable. It's designed to serve a purpose, and that's to keep you alive. So while I was out getting the 4 stones for the shelter, I also grabbed enough stones for the fire pit. Which, yeah, this is our shelter for tonight. It's time for me to start getting the stuff for the fire set up, and then going out and hunt a little bit of food. That probably is archery season. So actually, I kind of want to do that first because I need the light to hunt, but I can come out here and get the fire going, no problem. So that's what I'm going to do next, is start getting everything ready I need to hunt with. Okay, so what I got here is just a small crabapple sapling, and I got a Y at the end. Just going to carve a notch at the end here and string it up, and then this will be our small survival bow. I'm going to pull out the saw on my Swiss Army knife, and then I'm just going to hold it kind of like this in my hand, see where it naturally wants to go. And it's looking like I'll be making a simple little notch right about here. Then put the saw away, pull out the big blade, and I'm just going to grab it like this. And basically just kind of carve it away a little bit. So, got our small notch carved in that end. Obviously got a Y in this end. I'm going to back you guys up, string this thing up, and make a quick little arrow. Then you and I will start going out there hunting for a little bit of food. So, I'm just going to grab my little bit of cordage I got left here. So, on one end, I've already got a knot tied. So, I'm just going to tie a simple slip knot. So, this knot here is going to go right around the main section of this makeshift bow. So now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip it upside down just like so. So the Y is facing down. I'm going to put it in just like this. Bend it. Just going to wrap it right around that little notch we made. I'm not even going to bother cutting my cordage, because that's just a waste of cordage at this point. It's very little I got left. And then with the little bit I got left here, what I'm going to do is wrap it around there a few more times. And then I'm going to make a clove hitch at the very bottom. But here we go. This is a lot better. Kind of has that bow shape to it. Obviously, this is not going to be used for harvesting any big game. This is primarily going to be used for harvesting stuff like small game. It's probably got at least a good 15 pounds draw weight to it. So this should be plenty for doing a little bit of hunting. So, as you can see, this thing does have some decent draw to it. So let's go ahead and make her a simple little arrow and start hunting. Okay, so I went ahead off camera here and just made a simple little arrow, carved a little notch in it with my saw, and I got no fletching on this, which for what we have right now to hunt, this right here should do just fine. I do have one wicked little point I just carved up on that. Let's get out there and do some hunting. There's a wild stake on a tree. It's a good thing I made that bow and arrow. You don't want to get too close, because if you get too close or if you miss, this wild stake's going to disappear. Very, very quiet and slowly. Still there. This is definitely going to be a blooper. Just look at that. It's a wild stake growing on a tree. These are very, very rare. It's rarer than chicken of the woods. It's going to creep up very, very slowly with a bow like this and an arrow like this, and I missed. Time for plan B. Oh! I still missed, because I don't really want to get my stake down to the ground, but I'm going to try this again. So, just look at that. We have ourselves a wild stake stuck on a tree. Perfect. Yes, I hit it. I'm sorry, but this is just too ridiculous for me to do something fun for you guys. All right, so we hit the wild stake in a tree, and now it is time for us to harvest it. What a wonderful piece of steak we got here. Time for us to go over there and cook it now. Remember, no processing wild meat like this. It's already pre-cut. I figured I'd just have a little bit of fun and get a steak and bring it out here and make that little arrow and that little bow, just to have a little bit of fun for you guys. Because you know, today's day and age, everything's so stressful, and so I figured I'd come out here and do something funny like that for you guys. I know it's not really a survival challenge per se, but I wanted to have a little bit of fun, and I wanted to have a steak tonight for dinner. So the next thing we're going to do is start working on a fire. We're going to cook this bad boy up. Don't worry, I know that by touching raw meat like this, especially one from a farm, obviously, yes, I will be washing my hands. If it comes to natural meat like deer, bear, anything like that, you don't necessarily have to worry about washing your hands in a survival situation. This is just a little fun bit for you guys. Now these will make excellent bedding or excellent shelter material for a roof. I'm also going to grab some sand and other stuff as well from this creek bed and use that to get all of that fat from the meat off my hands. Obviously, yes, right now my hands are filthy still because of all the dirt. Just rinsing them back off like this allows me to have good clean hands again. Wait, is that what I think it is? That looks, oh my god, it is. You know what this is? This is actually a wild yearling tree. Every once in a while, about once every 100 years, one of these things sprouts out a couple cans. That's why it's the shape that it is. You know how rare this is? These things are ice cold too. That's the best part. Oh, I'm definitely drinking these things here for dinner. Okay, just as a little disclaimer, for those of you who are not familiar with the outdoors, they're 100% fake. So I just want to have a little bit of fun. So I brought out some beer, brought out a steak, figured I'd make a couple funny little scenes for you guys. Because after all, at the end of the day, I'm out here just trying to have fun and just trying to do this stuff for you guys. And I'm going to be sleeping in that shelter over there for you guys so you guys can have some enjoyment out of this. So I figured I may as well treat myself, bring a few beers out and bring a steak out, cook it over the fire here a little bit. So me doing this couple of funny little skits or stupid skits that we're going to think of them as, that was kind of me going ahead and kind of trying to say thank you in a way for that. This is kind of a celebration for you guys. For all the subs that have been here with me for the past month of me having this YouTube channel, that's what I'm celebrating. I'm having a few beers and I'm also having a steak for dinner during a survival challenge. It's not really a survival challenge anymore, but still, we're out here having fun. And that's the biggest thing. It's coming out here in the woods, having fun, doing your thing, and just doing what you love. Let's get right to the cooking now because I'm getting hungry and these beers aren't getting any colder. This will probably be one of the few videos that will actually include me drinking alcohol. This is what I'm keeping that beer cold in. I have some ice in here. I have a little bit of Mylar on the inside of this to help keep everything nice and cold. And this right here, this is my haversack. I made this actually like 4 months ago. I actually made this and waxed it. I just got some toilet paper in here. I have a Nalgene water bottle, and I actually just bought this thing today for like $5. And then I've also got an extra beer in here, and I can throw in my cooler and keep it cold, which I'll probably do here pretty soon. But what I got is an extra light. This has a main beam, it focuses, and it also has this beam right here. So I'll probably end up hanging this somewhere on the shelter so we can use it tonight. And I've also got a few different seasonings, nothing too crazy. For that steak, I just have some salt, pepper, and a sweet smoky rub. So those are the three main seasonings I have for that steak. Okay, so what I made here off camera was a couple little Y sticks. I'm going to hammer these into the ground. I'm going to make myself a spit for that steak, and then we will continue on from there. So now I'm going to cut my bar to go across, and then a couple other pieces to connect the steak onto this, and then we will get this fire going and start. Okay, so I got everything I need here made. This is over here. It's going to be the spit. It's kind of crappy looking, but that's all right. This is going to go across here. These two little skewers here are going to go into the steak on whichever side of the side here, and that's what's going to cook the steak here. So now it is time to get this fire rolling here so that we can get the steak cooking. I'm going to use one of the cotton balls. Where is the ferro rod at? That's something you never want to hear in a survival situation. And throw you back in there. I can smell the denatured alcohol as well as soon as I squeeze that. Yeah, this reeks of denatured alcohol, which is awesome. I'm going to wipe my hands off so I don't contaminate my food source here. And I got my trusty old Swiss Army knife saw out here, and it's going to spark it. And just like that, we got ourselves a fire starting. Just so that way I don't lose this ferro rod, then right back into my cooking pot there. I'm just going to let this fire catch before I put the steak on here, just because I do not want any of the fumes from the denatured alcohol to get onto our steak. That will actually ruin the flavor and possibly even poison us. I don't really want that. While I'm cooking that steak, what I'll do is I will go over what I have in my wool blanket because I need to charge my phone up. This thing completely broke on me. But let's just see. Yeah, no, I need to redo that. That is not going to work for me. All right, now I need to make a new skewer. So that light I just put on there is temporary, just until I'm able to get my good light out for you guys. Okay, now it's going to take these skewers and it's going to poke one side through here, and carefully poke one side through there. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the other one here. So that's going to be our setup right there. We are currently cooking our steak. One side is pretty well cooked. The other side is kind of getting there. It is getting to be pretty windy out here tonight, so I hope the shelter does pretty good, and hope there's no widowmakers out here either. I'll just kind of leave the steak here on the fire to continue to cook while I go over my bedroll setup I got here so I can get everything I need out of it. It's very simple. I'm staying right next to my steak so I can turn it as it cooks. So got a couple of Velcro straps holding it together. And got the beanie here, which has all my recording stuff in it. Okay, I got my battery bank, I got my light and a mount for the light. So I'll be needing these two things for sure. And I got the beanie, as I already showed you. Also got my cutting board here for putting the steak on after I'm done cooking it, so I can eat it. And I've also got my Woolrich. That's all I have in here. Beautiful looking steak here so far. I just want to continue kind of roasting it over the fire like this. Over all them coals. If I have to, I'll throw more sticks on as I go. Because after I eat the steak, drink another beer or two, I'll be going to bed. So this is kind of what our steak's looking like. This is just a cheap $10 steak from Walmart. Alright. So, got ourselves a nice steak here. Let's just see. Cut off a little section of it. Just to see how well cooked it is. Oh, look at that. It is almost beautifully marbled. It's kind of hard to see on camera there, but man, that does look pretty good. Now that is amazing. Actually, that is super tender. My God, this is so tender. It literally melts in your mouth. Okay. Now this is what the cutting board is supposed to be used for. Don't mind my sniffling. But man, just look at that. Now that is beautiful. Oh man, smoke is killing me right now. So I did actually end up cutting some of that meat up into chunks here, as you can see. Just because, as you can see, some of it's not quite 100% cooked through yet. And I was getting a bunch of pieces that I couldn't even chew. So I decided to kind of cook it up and put it back on the fire. Alright guys, so still got the rest of the meat on here cooking, but I am thinking about kind of turning in for the night because I am beat after today. What I think I might do is I might put all that meat in my cooking pot and hang it from the tree. It is supposed to start raining here pretty soon, and I want to get in my shelter and I want to have everything in my shelter with me. I don't want to get wet. So the plan is to put the rest of this meat in a cooking pot and hang it from a tree, since this stuff is smoked essentially. It is to put all this meat in the cooking pot and to move everything from my cooking pot into my haversack. Alright, I got my cooking pot here. I've also got my meat. I'm just going to take the meat and literally put it in here. This right here should be my leftovers for tomorrow morning. Something else I'll do is I'll take one of the rubber bands I got for this cook set, and I will secure it on there. I can feel the rain starting to come, so I need to do this pretty quickly. Yeah, I'll be taking all the cordage off this guy right here. This is just for having fun. So I was not planning on actually using this thing here for hunting at all. It was literally just to have a little bit of fun with you guys. That's the main reason why I made this little bow in the first place. We do have all of our cordage right here off the bow, and we will be using said cordage we got right here from off the bow to string up our cooking pots, so that way nothing gets to it, because trust me, I don't want that. So with these couple holes that you see in here, so I'm just going to take my cordage and just feed it through the holes on here, just like so. Then just going to tie a knot, specifically a slip knot. Then just going to take our lid, put our lid on here, and as you can see, now what we can do is we can take, it's going to help keep the lid on actually, so we don't have to use that rubber band. But so now what we're going to do is we're going to take something and attach the end of this. We'll get like a relatively heavy stick or something, which this bad boy here worked just fine. Alright, so I will go do that, and then I'll bring you guys over to show you what I'm talking about. As you guys can see, that shine right up there is the cooking pot. That's about 10 feet off the ground. So as you can see, I did tie a clove hitch, so that's going to be plenty strong enough to keep this cooking pot right here. It's basically a trap for me in the morning. So I come over here and I untie, it's going to bonk her on top of the head. Hopefully not, but yeah. So if I do it tomorrow morning, I have to grab onto this first and then do that. For all I know, this could come untied throughout the night, and if it does, I'll lose all my meat, and I will not be a happy camper. Now it's time to get my bedding all set up here. Start to kind of cool down a little bit too, so I'm glad I brought this good old wool blanket with me. So I know this wool blanket here will definitely keep me warm tonight. Alright guys, well, it is starting to rain out, and before it started raining out here, I did go out and get some more firewood, but it's about time for me to start turning in here and getting to bed. So I did throw some bigger pieces of wood on here I gathered to hopefully help keep some coals for tomorrow morning. Yeah, it's going to be a tight squeeze in here, that's for sure. By the way, I do have my bases laced up in paracord. This is specialty paracord. This has some fire starter stuff in it. It's got wax jute. And it also has a little bit of fishing line. And it obviously has the rest of the paracord guts on the inside of it too. But in reality, this is real survival here, what I'm doing for you guys. Oh, I hope this doesn't collapse on me. Well, good night, guys. Hopefully, I'll see you guys in the morning if the bear doesn't come around. Knocking on wood. Now I'm gonna crawl back out of here. Just get you guys and bring you guys in here. This is fun. Oh boy, this is really, really fun.